know what's horrible? When the president of the United States whips up people to beat the hell out of people. No. Say goodbye.
From Meghan McCain's rude interjections to Rosie O'Donnell's shrieking arguments and Whoopi Goldberg's insane lash-outs, here are the ugliest fights on The View ever to happen, starting with the deadly face-off between Whoopi Goldberg and Judge Jeanine Pirro. When Whoopi Goldberg and Jeanine Pirro sat across from each other on The View, the debate was never going to stay civil for long. And sure enough, it went downhill fast. What we got was an all-out shouting match that turned daytime TV into a war zone.
I also think it's important, as we said, 89% of the Republican Party still supports him. He still has huge popularity in the country. And if Democrats don't get their you-know-what together, he's certainly going to get reelected.
Here's my question for you. Here's my question for you, because you talk about...
I am not, Judge.
Nobody is...
Oh, yeah.
Did you just point at me?
While it was absolutely hilarious to see Pirro call out Whoopi's derangement syndrome right to her face, maybe, just maybe, she should have read the room before dropping that bomb.
I don't have Trump derangement. Let me tell you what I have.
Okay.
I have a lot of... I'm tired of people starting a conversation with Mexicans or liars and rapists. I'm tired of people... Listen, I'm 62 years old. There have been a lot of people in office that I didn't agree with, but I have never, ever seen anything like this. I've never seen anybody whip up such hate. I've never seen anybody be so dismissive. Clearly, you don't watch the show, so you don't know that I don't suffer from that. What I suffer from is the inability to figure out how to fix this. That's my issue. But one of the things that you talk about a lot, and I'm curious about it, is the deep state.
How great is this for The View's ratings? With some of the most explosive women on daytime TV, why not go full UFC and throw in a guest for a one-on-one brawl? Because nothing says entertainment quite like Whoopi Goldberg screaming at a guest like it's Thanksgiving dinner gone horribly wrong.
That's what you... I'm sorry, baby, that's what you said. You said...
But you know what's horrible?
That
when
it
people
was,
who
it's
shouldn't
okay.
be here end up murdering the children of American citizens.
You know what's horrible?
What's horrible
when the president
is
of the
we
United
fund
States
sanctuary
whips up
cities.
people to beat the hell out of people.
No.
Say goodbye. Let me do something I very rarely do. I very rarely lose my cool, and I'm not proud of it. I don't like it. But I also don't like being accused of being hysterical, because that's one of the things I try not to be.
If they were shrieking at the top of their lungs in front of live TV, imagine the chaos that followed once they went backstage. But this facade is just a part of Whoopi's morning warm-up as she jumps into a ball of fire with others, like the time when she locked horns with her peer, Rosie O'Donnell.
Well, I'll tell you this. Remember when this one was looking at her sister on the thing?
Yeah.
She couldn't tell the difference. And I said to her, what? Oh, so it turns out that white people can't tell each other apart either. You guys need to know what real racism is. You need to know what racism is. Racism is when somebody comes up, die. That's racism.
Yes.
But we know that, right?
A normal person would never willingly step on a landmine like Rosie. But Whoopi, please. She's gone toe-to-toe with far scarier people than Rosie in her career. This was just another day at the office for her.
Listen,
I remember who was in the Congress.
Well, but the American people elect...
also, that we elected.
Right. Democrats are racist, too. It's our cultural history.
Listen, you are a white lady telling me what is racist to you, which is fine.
American who's been told what homophobia and hatred looks like.
Not the same.
I have a black kid I raised, Whoopi. I have a kid in my house.
That is not the same thing.
You don't have to be black to know what racism is.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do, baby.
No, you do not.
Yes, you do. Let me
I think that there's so many white folks out there.
Why even call it a debate when all you can do is try to inject your narrative and just end the discussion? When it comes to causing trouble on set, Joy Behar is no less than a ticking time bomb sitting on a chair, and we all know that by this point.
The facts are important, and we'll get to that. I want to start with something that I think is also important about facts, because recently on your show here...
I was just going to get to that.
Good. Helping you out.
You want me to ask you the question?
No, look, some of you have accused me of being a traitor to my country, a Russian asset, a Trojan horse, or a useful idiot, I think was the term that you used. Which basically means that I'm naive or lack intelligence to know what's going on.
They use that.
I want to let your viewers know exactly who I am.
All right.
Set the record straight. I am a patriot.
And just like that, Behar's paper-thin patience snapped, unleashing a storm of rage. Because why not pick a fight with the calmest person in the room?
And frankly, as a woman, to be so demeaned in
you
such
called
a way.
her the personification of rock.
So demeaned
She's a woman
in such
too.
a way. Well, I'm pointing to the fact that she has continued this legacy of being the world's police around the world, that has waged wars costing the lives of thousands of my brothers and sisters in uniform. I'm speaking out against that and
What's
to
your evidence
change
to that?
to change.
Well, can I?
Are you serious?
Let's hear it.
Are you serious?
Let's hear it.
I served in the war
Not
in
you,
Iraq.
her. You're saying that she's-
exactly.
she's a
I
warmonger.
served
How do
in
you
the
come
war
up with
in
that?
Iraq
Yeah.
that she championed. She championed a regime change
Did
war
you not
in
believe
Libya.
in that war?
I believe the lies that were told to us.
Come on, Joy. How about taking a little heat yourself for once? You dish it out left and right, testing your guests' patience every time you disagree. So why not step into the fire and see how it feels? Political debates are often the grounds where the Views ladies lose their control, like the heated debate between Judge Jeanine Pirro and Joy Behar.
By having the trial here in New York, is our safety compromised at all?
I don't
Because
think-
you got a judge, you're going to have to go. Well, you have to be guarded for the rest of his life. I remember
There's
that's
no
what Giuliani-
question. This jury has to be guarded, the judge, the prosecutors. And you know what? Think about the little guy, the small businessman. You know, when you've got a woman, when you've got a lockdown in that part of New York City, they're going to be losing business. What is the point? Try them in the military tribunal. Then you don't have to deal with the speedy trial issue, the voluntariness of confessions, the right to counsel, and all of the other issues that are really, in jeopardy.
When it comes to defending the country's honor, no one is as devoted as Joy Behar, who proved this by quickly turning this peaceful conversation into a war zone.
Nuremberg trials, I don't understand this 100%. I'm just trying to figure it out. In the Nuremberg trials, you had the Nazis who were German, and that was a declaration of war against the German state, and so they were tried in a military court because it was a military action. Terrorism, these terrorists seem to be criminals in the world. They don't really belong to a country, so maybe they should be treated like civilians, and this is a criminal
Like our
trial.
civilians? No,
Wait a
they should
second.
never be treated like our civilians.
I'm trying to get to the bottom of it.
Terrorists who need a home.
Nobody's
Let's go
saying
over
that,
and have a
Elizabeth.
civilian
Stop
trial
it.
for you.
Stop it.
Absolutely not.
Look how Behar immediately silenced Elizabeth's little wave of outrage. Why not? Joy Behar isn't accustomed to letting others steal her thunder while she shines in such fights.
You've got to do is kill the infidel. Who's the infidel?
Okay, so,
We're the infidel.
So the Timothy McVeigh, who was also a terrorist, because he's American, I'm just
Right,
want to know
right,
the answers.
right.
He would be tried how? How was he tried?
McVeigh was tried in a state court because he's not saying that he was doing it for another country, for another
So
religion.
because he was an American, he gets American
He
rights.
does.
These
He
people
does.
do not.
And we're giving them
the
rights.
terrorists who were born here that joined up with the jihadists, what did they get?
Well, that's like John Walker Lynn,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I mean, someone like that. It depends on, where he was ultimately tried. I think he was tried in a civilian court. Yes, he was. Yes.
It was surprising how Elizabeth sat in silence after Joy Behar's shut-up call. Honestly, she's definitely not the type to get turned down that easily.
The rule of the land is pro-choice right now, and also the guy pointed out, and he was a priest, that there are things like capital punishment. They're not protesting those particular murders or torturing people. So it's not Catholicism is not a one-note samba. It's a lot of issues, and this is just one note.
The sermon this weekend, even at my church, was about how people tend to pick and choose the thing that they want to extract from the Bible and then protest. Whereas, though, there are many, like you said, many facets of following that Christian doctrine. I think, the main problem that they had was with his stance on, he was one of the loudest people.
No way they can keep Elizabeth quiet in an abortion debate. Elizabeth Hasselbeck debates abortion with the kind of intensity you'd expect from someone fighting for their life because, clearly, no one has ever been more passionate about other people's choices than she is.
If you are
the choice is against choice.
Interestingly enough,
That's what the
for
choice
the first time in, I don't know if ever, there was a recent Gallup poll that has 51% of people being pro-life. So this is actually the first time that
and it's interesting with that 51%.
I'm pro-life also. It's very much an insult to me as a person who values life to say that I'm not pro-life. Who are these people?
I am also pro-life.
Deciding that I'm not pro-life.
But I thought it was interesting with that Gallup poll.
Well, you're saying
because
something
now
different then.
They were saying
no, they
a lot.
should call themselves what it is, which is anti-choice.
No, but I was saying.
Fine, Whoopi. Toss a joke to break the tension between Joy Behar and Elizabeth Hasselbeck. But at that point, not even a comedy special could have lightened the mood. Just when you thought the drama had peaked, the tension kindly rolled over to Whoopi Goldberg and Sherri Shepherd. Because why settle for one fight when you can have a sequel?
Much that
When you
it may
can't
be a way to
afford the child, when you cannot afford to have the child, or you don't have the resources, looking at that baby doesn't make it any easier to make their choice. I am pro-life because I think people who can raise it should raise it. Now, I don't say, listen, maybe the Octomom shouldn't have had 43 kids. Okay?
But I do say, maybe we get it.
But see, no, maybe we got her. That is her choice. And if
It's
she
her
is
choice.
choosing to have 55 babies, you can't suddenly say, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't
She's
do
choosing
it.
to have 55 babies, and now I got to pay for all of those 55 babies.
That's how I
when
feel.
I go, well, maybe we got to do
But
something.
here's the situation.
She's got the money to
I feel
take
the
care
same
of those.
way.
At this point, the ladies were all for a full-scale verbal fight. Meanwhile, Joy Behar, who sowed the seed, was doing nothing but enjoying the drama.
Afford to have your kid, I don't want you having one, and I want you to have the ability to say the truth. I really can't do this right
What
now.
about the people who do it based on convenience? Let's, because I understand. Hang on, let me finish.
there are that many people
Wait a
that
minute.
do it on
I hear
convenience.
stories all the time of women who are working. They don't want to
Yes,
start
we hear
a
those stories,
family.
but we hear
What about
stories.
those people? And what
They
about
are
those situations?
boneheads.
You know, well,
They are not.
But the one thing I gotta say
they
for the
don't, let me finish.
Okay.
They are not the majority to make that decision.
I am not saying
They
that it's
are-
an easy
and-
decision, but I think there are
boneheads
convenience-based abortions as well.
everywhere.
that
There
they
are
can-
boneheads boneheads everywhere.
There are teenage girls out here. There are teenage girls out here who I have to speak to that because I was one of them. Who it wasn't a thing of where I didn't think of, oh, I can't feed this baby. I don't have enough money.
Did anybody
I
teach
was a
you?
teenager. It was just
What
like
did you do? Who helped you?
Whoa, look at that! Whoopi single-handedly takes care of the double-teamed Shepherd and Hasselbeck.
Actually, were encouraging me to have the abortion, even when I had second thoughts.
How old were you?
I was 17, and I said I got second thoughts, but they were trying to rush me in there to have the abortion. I ended
have
up
to
not
say,
going.
Sherri,
but
I don't know who you went to, but I'll tell you.
Planned Parenthood. That's
no,
what I went.
I'm saying
documentary
I don't.
based on this
I don't
actual
know-
theory.
Listen,
I'm saying I was a teenager. I wasn't thinking about all the other stuff. I was thinking,
you
I'm
weren't
pregnant.
thinking
I
about
want this
you-
baby.
Okay,
I didn't
because
have the
who?
baby. Why? But
Because
that's what-
why am I glad she didn't have the baby? Because she wasn't ready. She wasn't prepared, and God knows where she would have ended up if she had that
Who
baby.
knows that the baby couldn't have been our president of the United States one day? Or
Yes.
who knows that the baby couldn't have
we don't-
secured
you know,
AIDS
she
one
could-
day?
yeah, she could.
Always
You
think
know
of the
what?
negative side.
I
but
suffer a lot of
those-
guilt.
Right, but I'm saying who knows the potential of that child?
That's right.
Everyone always says that child would have ended up in a bad situation.
Have to admit that one-liner from Joy Behar at the end was quite hilarious, and a very solid comeback, no doubt. This is enough to remind us that even Joy Behar has some better moments, unlike the ever-arrogant Sunny Hostin, who's monotonous and boring as hell.
One of the things I think about, and one of the reasons why I'm on the show, is because of the comments that were made, frankly, on this show, that the only way for a young African-American kid to be successful in this country is to be the exception and not the rule. That is a dangerous, offensive, disgusting message to send to our young people today, that the only way to succeed is by being the exception. I will tell you that if my life is the exception, I can't imagine.
But it is.
But it's not, actually.
It's been 114 years.
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is we've had an African-American president, African-American vice president. We've had 2 African-Americans to be secretaries of the state. In my home city, the police chief is an African-American who's now running for mayor. The head of the highway patrol for South Carolina is an African-American.
Still
in
exceptions.
19.
Ah, there she is, Sunny Hostin, sitting across from Tim Scott, a successful person of color, gearing up to desperately relate, until, like clockwork, she steers the whole conversation straight into a race-based political agenda. We all saw that coming, didn't we?
There is about 15% employment in the African-American community for the first time in the history of the country. It's under 5%.
40% homelessness.
And 50%
of African Americans
50% of the folks in our community
get 13% of the
You had the
population.
chance to ask the question. I know that I've watched you on the show that you like people to be deferential and respectful, so I'm going to do the same thing.
Highlighting the negatives while skipping over the positives is a classic Sunny move. Of course, she gets a thrill out of turning interviews into battlefields, and sometimes she messes with her own peers in her pursuit of chaos, like the time she got into an argument with Alyssa Farah Griffin.
Scares me, Alyssa,
is that you are incapable of defending a man that you worked for, that you
I am
know
not.
of.
Oh, no,
and you're
no.
saying
Why
that
don't you ask me a question
you're saying
rather
that you
than-
need to hear.
I did ask you a question.
She
Oh, I
did.
had a point I wanted to
and you
make.
said that you needed to hear more from him. And I don't need to hear more from Pence for several reasons. Because when I lived
Well,
in
you just
Indiana,
accused me of something, so why don't you let me actually answer? You're not going to vote for a Republican ever.
No, I'm gonna finish what I'm gonna say. The thing about
Picking a fight with Alyssa over her past ties to Trump? Classic Sonny Hostin move, like clockwork, isn't it?
he was
you
actually,
defended
I'm
Cornell
still
West
speaking.
yesterday,
I'm
who would
still-
destroy our
I'm still
country,
speaking.
so.
He also was a parrot for Trump.
Don't
He
make this personal.
spearheaded-
Let's hear.
He
Yeah,
spearheaded the Trump.
Sonny likes to make it personal with me, so we'll just. Are you going to give me a
just
chance to
speaking
answer?
the truth, spearheading Trump's
You have a minute.
I mean, this is
COVID-19
absurd.
agenda of downplaying the virus.
This is not
And
what the
then-
show is about. This is Barbara
It's
Walters'
everybody's-
legacy.
it's
Let a
everybody's
woman
view.
speak.
It's everybody's
It's everybody's view. No, it's Sonny
everybody's
Hostin's view.
And Pence did not
well,
quarantine.
Enjoy, you asked her
Pence
not-
did not quarantine himself.
You said, why would someone vote
Are you just going to keep
Yes.
going, or am I
I'm
going to
not-
get
yes, because I'm
I want to
finished.
answer my question.
You know
Yeah,
what?
answer
I
the question.
kind of feel like I need to go to break right now.
And Whoopi, spot on. A break sounds perfect. Not just from the shouting match, but from Sonny's never-ending talent for stirring up drama without any solid narrative. But what's the point of a breather when we're left with the most explosive duo, Whoopi and Bahar, sitting across from the man they despise the most? Now that's a rare interview worth watching.
Donald Trump is a billionaire, a real estate mogul, and a television star. But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to. Please, let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump.
Her face alone says it all, overflowing with pure disappointment, itching to go against the man she never really liked.
You know, we'll see. I haven't made a decision. I'll be making a decision, and I will do a good job if I decide yes and if I win.
Okay. I just was wondering, because you were talking about how all these countries have been doing this. You would admit that this has sort of been business as usual for the last 30 years.
George Bush, he gave us Obama. I'm not a big fan of George Bush. I'm not a fan of
let's not
Obamacare.
talk about what who
I
gave
know,
who,
I know,
baby,
Whoopi.
because
I
we're
don't think
all
I'm going to
bent
get
over.
Whoopi's vote.
If
okay?
you did, let me just say, if you did beat,
And she likes me. She even put me in her
I was
movies.
just going to say.
She put me in her
Okay,
movies,
yes,
right?
we
A
are
long time ago.
friends.
So how much should I judge? Nothing.
Like they
right?
say in the
It was a
dog
preview.
It wasn't long before Whoopi Goldberg and Barbara Walter decided to play a tag team match against their guest, burying his voice under the bellowing screeches.
United States. In order to
I
get
want
a
him to
driver's
show his
license, in
birth
order to-
certificate. I want him to show his birth certificate. There's something on
Okay,
that
why
birth
not, I
certificate that he doesn't like.
Oh my
Oh,
God!
that's a terrible
That
thing
is
to
just
say.
Whoopi, I'm telling you.
He was 3 pounds
Whoopi,
today.
I love you. I'm
Donald,
telling
I love
you.
you too. I think that's the biggest pile of dog mess I've heard in ages.
the question is,
There's
why
something
not
on-
show it, right?
There's something on his birth certificate he doesn't want to show.
It's not because he's black.
Let
It's
him
time you
show.
were born,
Has
what color
nothing to
you
do with it.
are.
By the way,
Because I've
has
never heard
nothing to
any
do
white
with it.
president asked to be shown the birth certificate.
Everybody does.
When you become a president of the United States of America,
Okay, listen.
you know that he's
Let him
American.
show
I'm
his
sorry,
birth
that's
certificate.
BS.
Are you saying that it just
Donald Trump going full anti-Obama on The View? Now that's the final boss level of daytime TV chaos. Nothing, and I mean nothing, could have been more explosive than that. Although there are moments that do come close to this level, and the encounter of Rosie O'Donnell and Elizabeth Hasselbeck is its best example.
You just said our enemies in Iraq. Did Iraq attack us?
No, I'm saying Al Qaeda.
Okay,
who is
did
in
Iraq attack us, Elizabeth?
Iraq did not attack us,
Correct.
Rosie. We've been there before.
what do
I'm
you-
saying our enemies, Al Qaeda. Are you hearing that?
I hear it, but where do you want to go, Bub? We're gonna
political discussion with
Right.
Don't interview each other. Just
If you're,
say what
if
you
you're
mean.
playing a game, okay? If you're playing a game, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to throw to my wide receiver, wide right, okay? Do you do that? I'm going to do it in 2 seconds. What does that do for your enemy?
Well, you know what,
It gives them
Elizabeth?
time
If
to
the
plan.
enemy are innocent civilians, I don't want to play that kind of football.
The enemy are not innocent
Iraq
civilians.
didn't attack us!
I am not saying innocent civilians are the enemy.
Rosie O'Donnell made it her personal mission to keep things exciting. Why let Elizabeth Hasselbeck sit comfortably when she could randomly spark an argument and keep the chaos alive?
You know why I don't want to do this, Joy? No, let me tell you why I don't want to do it. Because here's how it gets spun in the media. Rosie, big, fat, lesbian, loud Rosie, attacks innocent, pure Christian Elizabeth. And I'm not doing it for the rest of the
Let me do it. I haven't heard that line. Listen, I think that's unfair.
You should watch some of the shows that, you don't watch.
All of them. You accused me of watching all of those shows yesterday.
I'm okay arguing with Elizabeth.
You're just as sensitive when I'm hurt as I am when you were.
Yes.
Every time you've been hurt, did I reach out to you?
Why is this personal? There's a war going on out there. It's not personal.
I like watching Dancing with the Stars. This is exactly why.
Ah, yes, The View's finest moment. When a debate turned into an all-out verbal brawl, making daytime TV feel like a live wrestling match with verbal jabs instead of punches. Imagine the temperature in the room that even Joy Behar was trying to prevent the two from having a brawl.
Why don't you take this opportunity like I'm 6?
Because you are an adult, and I am certainly not going to be the person for you to explain your thoughts. They're your thoughts. Defend your own insinuations.
I defend my thoughts.
Defend your own thoughts.
Right, but every time I defend them, Elizabeth, it's poor little Elizabeth that I'm picking on.
You know what? Poor little Elizabeth is not poor little Elizabeth.
That's
okay?
right. That's why I'm not going to fight with you anymore, because it's absurd. So for 3 weeks, you can say all the Republican crap you want. I'm not going to do it.
It's much easier to fight someone like Donald Trump, isn't it? Because he's obnoxious.
I've never fought him. He fought me. I told a fact about him. He didn't like
this
the
conversation. I was in the middle of this conversation.
Sherri Shepherd could have practically sliced through the tension with a butter knife. Rosie and Elizabeth were going at it like it was a championship match, while Joy Behar sat there desperately trying to referee the chaos. For Rosie, it's simple. Why not turn the table into a full-blown battleground? And what better topic to go to war over than actual war and terrorism? Classic The View, where debates escalate faster than a lit fuse.
If you believed what the Republican pundits were saying,
say yes?
You said nothing, and that's cowardly.
No.
Nothing.
That is not. Do not call me a coward, because number one, I sit here every single day, open my heart, and tell people exactly what I believe.
So do I, Elizabeth.
Do not call me a coward, Rosie.
It was
I do
cowardly
not
yesterday.
hide. It was not cowardly. It was honest. What is cowardly?
Is there no commercial in the show?
I'll tell you what's cowardly. Asking a rhetorical question that you never answer yourself. That is cowardly.
Directing the show. Let's go to commercial.
What started as a discussion on terrorist organizations turned into one of the ugliest fights in the history of The View, terrorizing Joy Behar and Sherri Shepherd completely. Can you sense the irony as well? If there's one thing Rosie O'Donnell does best, it's making sure no argument happens without her. Because why settle for one feud when you can be at the center of them all?
Well, I'll tell you this. Remember when this one was looking at her sister on the thing?
Yeah.
She couldn't tell the difference. And I said to her, what? Oh, so it turns out that white people can't tell each other apart either. So it's really about people.
When we talk about racism, we have to understand that it's systemic, though, Whoopi. It is a system.
You guys need to know what real racism is. You need to know what racism is. Racism is when somebody comes up, die. That's racism.
Yeah.
But we know that.
Of course, how can you expect Rosie O'Donnell to stay calm when her favorite topic comes up? The woman gets attracted to these topics like a moth to a flame.
Listen, I remember who was in the Congress.
Well, but the American people elect
also that we elected.
Right. Democrats are racist too. It's our cultural history.
Listen.
What homophobia and hatred looks like.
It's not the same.
I have a black kid I raised, Whoopi. I have a kid in my house.
That is not the same thing.
You don't have to be black to know what racism is.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do,
no,
baby.
You do not.
Yes, you do. Let me
I think that there's so many white folks out there who've been protesting, who understand, who see and understand.
Which is why I say it's not racist, because America is not just a racist country. Because there are white people who get it. There are white people who look up and say, honey, this I know.
She sure knows how to keep things interesting. Nothing like casually wading into racial debates like it's her favorite pastime. Plus, her voice is a vocal representation of women's empowerment, to be honest. Aside from tearing their opponents apart, another significant hobby of The View's ladies is prying into others' lives, which often causes a clash, like the time Whoopi Goldberg interfered with Kate Gosselin's personal life.
He's had this babysitter once before, so did you tell the?
But also,
This is why divorce and child custody issues, it gets so ugly because you know what the law says in your head, but then you got something right here that goes, you know what, no, this person is watching my kid.
You cannot do that. You cannot do that.
And I'm saying I agree with you,
because when they do it to you,
but you're not hiring somebody John don't know to watch your kids.
But you know what? You don't know what John likes and what he doesn't like.
I don't know what John likes, but I'm going,
And I'm saying that his attitude could be the same on something that you feel is perfectly normal.
And I think that's one of the hardest things.
Of course, nothing is more friendly and ethical than direct intervention in someone's divorce. Eh, Whoopi?
One of the hardest things is deciding what my motherly heart is saying, but seeing us now as two different entities, that what I am doing, he can give right back.
You know,
and
it's
that's
funny.
very difficult
I've
because
just
my
been
focus
asked
is the kids.
to clear this up. He denies sleeping with the babysitter, so he's saying he did not have a physical relationship. I just have to clear it up. I just got it from the.
Well, I'm not here. But he does have a new girl. But it does. John, we gotta say, John does have a new girlfriend. I would think he wouldn't.
Whoopi was possibly working for a commission, or maybe she liked John's new girlfriend more. Who knows? At the end of the day, all we saw was her frustration being channeled toward Kate. And just when you think the chaos is peaking, enter Elizabeth Hasselbeck and Sherri Shepherd. Because what's The View without yet another heated showdown?
I don't know if it's considered to be dirty when I think the past does matter in terms of how you're going to deal with the present and future. I'm a person that believes that, but it does. I think that.
When is it over?
But doesn't it matter? I mean, I think that it doesn't. Someone's history matter, or their alliances, or their decisions they've made.
There's a statute of limitations.
If we went there, yeah.
Ah, the rare talent of launching baseless narratives and then defending them at full volume. Elizabeth Hasselbeck truly mastered the art of arguing for the sake of arguing.
Long replies. I don't know what your life is like. I know a little bit about your life. I would not want everything about your life, or perhaps even mine, judged by something that happened 26 years ago.
But this is the election, and this is to determine who is going to lead our country. And I think digging into relationships that, say, Barack Obama has had time and time again. But I'm saying, you want to. I don't think that. Look, we looked at what McCain was involved in with the Keeney Five. He was cleared of those.
We're just getting to it. We're just getting to it.
But what I'm saying is that
we also looked into Barack Obama, who was 8 years old when Bill Ayers.
Of course you can, sweetie. After being thrashed by Shepherd and Barbara Walters, at least you deserve this much. Let's take a moment to appreciate Whoopi's warm, welcoming nature, especially when a newbie like Jedediah dares to challenge her. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end with a friendly handshake.
674 women received prenatal services. 2,300 women were referred to adoption agencies. 1/3 of its clinic income comes from abortions.
But it's
and
not
when they
federal,
calculate,
it's not federal income.
right?
It's
But,
private income.
but you're donating to an organization.
Oh God!
These
don't
people
make
who are
this.
religious are donating to an organization that they feel condones and supports something that they don't. It's their money, so they're saying, look, you want to have an abortion? That's your right. It's your body.
Apparently
your right.
not,
I
because
don't
if it
have to
was my
contribute to an organization that
right,
condones
you
it.
wouldn't give a crap whether I was having an abortion.
They don't care.
No, wait.
They don't care.
They do care.
Let's be clear. Nothing brings Whoopi Goldberg more joy than turning the table into a battlefield and lining up her opponents like a game of verbal dodgeball. Remember the time she actually turned her guns against Meghan McCain to complete her sermon?
Now it's becoming hard
I'm
to.
sorry, but people.
Hold on, let me just finish what I'm saying so that I can just say. Everybody has something to say at the table. We really do want to hear from everybody, but we're starting to do that thing. Right. And so
I don't know what that means. This thing.
It means you're talking over each other.
Well, it's The View.
It is.
Well, that almost sums it up. If you can't take the heat, you should never head for The View. The ladies at the panel are always looking for someone to spar with, even if it means them smearing each other just to pick a fight.